Hi everyone, my name is Chris Litton. I'm one of your Bold instructors, and today I'm going to be doing a presentation that I'm calling 4 Behaviors to Optimize Your Nutrition. So these 4 behaviors all start with the letter P, and the first one that we're going to be talking about will be purpose. The second one we'll be talking about will be planning. The third one is prepping. And the last one will be portions. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first one is purpose. And purpose is a key behavior when we're talking about optimizing our nutrition, because we want to make sure that our actions are aligning with what we consider to be our values. Very commonly, what I've seen in my experience working with individuals is that they could have really good intentions, but they really haven't stopped to consider how their behaviors that they're practicing day in and day out are aligned or otherwise with their intended outcomes. So one of the things that I share with people is the concept of 5 whys. Now, the idea of 5 whys, not wives, 5 whys, it's not necessarily a new thing. It actually has its roots going back to the innovator of what we know now as the Toyota Corporation. They used it at that time to determine how to break something down to its ultimate purpose. And it's since been used as one form to adapt behavior adjustment or behavior modification. So I'm going to share it with you today. So the concept is simply starting like this. You have some kind of an objective. The example that I'm going to use today is something I think we can all relate to, which is I want to be healthier. So given that I want to be healthier, what I'm going to do now is follow that with 5 whys. So for starters, why do I want to be healthier? Well, so I might answer that is because I want to reduce my chances of getting sick, especially in the day and age we're living in now with the pandemic and so forth. So given that, why does it matter? Why does it matter that I want to reduce my chances to get sick? Well, because then I can enjoy my life more. So there's my second why. So now from there, why do I want to enjoy my life more? See, we're diving a little bit deeper now. We're getting to the root of something. Well, because when I'm enjoying my life more, I feel more fulfilled. Wow, we're getting a little deeper, right? So now if I feel more fulfilled, why do I want to experience being more fulfilled? Well, because then I'm waking up every day and I'm excited for whatever experiences that day has for me. You see how this is working? And then that ultimately gets to that 5th question, that final why. And in this case, why does waking up every day excited for whatever experiences I have matter? And my answer is because then life has purpose and meaning every day. Now, can you appreciate how, despite the fact that we're talking about nutrition, if we skip this vital step of first considering why are we doing this in the first place? In other words, what is our purpose in improving our nutrition? We could be missing a vital first step. So, just to recap, the 5 whys are tied to purpose, and simply you're going to establish some level of objective or goal, and then you're going to ask yourself 5 questions relating to that initial objective or goal, ultimately trying to get to the root of your why. That's the part that gets to where it starts tugging at your heartstrings. It means something to you, because here's the reality. As we get into the brass tacks of nutrition, we're just talking about intake, outtake, too much, too little. There's all sorts of things that can get in the way of us making one decision versus another. However, if we've taken that step right at the beginning to consider deeply why it's important to us in the first place, we're going to be more likely able to overcome obstacles and challenges as they present in a given day. All right? So let's now go into our second P in our 4 behaviors to optimize nutrition. So this second P is planning. And now, like I said, now we're getting into some of the actionable items, the actionable behaviors. Planning is a huge one. Consider how many times you have had best intentions and found yourself instead reacting because of poor planning. Hey, I'm practicing nutrition, healthy living every day, and I can tell you that it's happened to me. It's happened to me within the last week. And it all comes down to that basic premise of what's not planned for is going to be hard to overcome, right? So planning, a consideration for planning would be things like this. Start first with sleep quality. Whoa, how does sleep tie into nutrition? Well, you're gonna find out a lot more later, possibly. But for right now, let's have this consideration. Sleep quality affects mood, affects energy. Both of those have an impact in our ability to make decisions. So at a basic level, if we aren't getting quality sleep, 7 to 9 hours is the latest and greatest science, then we're affecting our ability to make quality decisions. We're going into our day less able to address the things that are coming at us simply because we didn't get enough sleep. So that's the first thing, is plan to get enough sleep. The second thing within planning is consider when will you be able to actually eat. This is important. I'll share with you, for me personally, I will look at my day well ahead of time, and I will look to see what kind of meetings, what kind of activities are taking place throughout the day, so that it helps me to consider the choices that I'm going to be able to make. If I have the time to sit down and enjoy something, I can plan accordingly for that. I can pack a meal, or I can order something and know that I have the allotted amount of time to enjoy it. If I don't take that time, though, to consider when I'm actually going to be able to eat, I'm going to find myself in situations where I'm either so hungry that I don't care what I'm eating, or I'm just going to make faulty decisions. So I'm not going to make things that are decisions that are supporting my intended outcome. So considering when you're able to eat, literally looking at your schedule ahead of time before you're in your day so that you can remain proactive in your day versus reactive, is the second point within planning. And then the final point I want to share within planning is to consider whether you're going to eat out or bring food in. I'll share with you, I tend towards bringing food in. The reason for that is I like to have more authority and control over what's in my food, because there's so much added salt and assortments of fat, whether butter or oils, in pre-made food. And a lot of it, we really don't know to what extent it's in there. So that's my preference. That being said, if you're in a position where you're not able to always be bringing food in, you still want to consider whether you're going to be eating out or in. What is the quality of that food going to be? And by planning ahead, you can look at menus ahead of time. One of the things that I share with people is literally just going online, checking out a restaurant ahead of time, looking at their food items, making some pre-thought decisions as to what you may order and what you may keep away from. That's really key. When it comes to bringing food in, when are you going to prepare that food? How's that going to come together? Is there going to be a mix of frozen or fresh, or all of one or none of the other? These are all things that tie into planning as well. And now the next P that I want to share with you has to do with prepping. And prepping is so critical to optimizing nutrition. The behavior of prepping, it takes time. However, that time is going to pay dividends for you if you're truly trying to optimize your nutrition. Let me explain. I'll share personally. The idea of grabbing vegetables or fruits or so on, it can be daunting if you don't have any consideration for preparation, because I'm not going to just grab a bell pepper as an example and start chewing it. Now, yes, I have been known to do that at times, but when I'm not planned and prepared. When I am planned and prepared, I'm taking the consideration ahead of time to make those vegetables come together in a way that could be appealing. I'm also considering how I'm putting those foods together. So as an example of that, my wife and I actually made some roasted veggies today so that you could see here. And so look at that. We have all sorts of color, which, as an aside, when it ties into nutrition, the more colors that we can have in a given day, the better, because each of these colors represents different assortments of essential vitamins and minerals. So you can see here, I have red, I have orange, I have yellow, I have green, I have purple in my onions, and threw in some mushrooms and garlic as well. If you could smell this like I can, you would be happy. So the idea here as it relates to prepping is food doesn't have to be gross. Like, we can make delicious things, but it takes time. Look at, in this example, we had to dice up all the different vegetables. We had to decide what we were going to put together. And if we didn't just consider that ahead of time, then we might have, I have sweet potato in here. These yams, I mean, they take time. They take time to cook. They take time to cut. If I just went into the refrigerator or to the pantry and grabbed a sweet potato, I don't know about you, but they don't taste very good if you just bite down on a raw sweet potato or a yam. So, however, prepping like this makes something that, yes, is good for you, but maybe not in its raw form, amazing. So, this is a consideration when it comes to prepping. Another thing I'll show you, and we'll actually do this one together, is the idea when it comes to prepping of what can you do ahead of time. Now, something that I love to do, I actually do it just about every single day, certainly every day of the week, is what I call overnight soaked oats. And I didn't coin that. I learned that from others, and it's fantastic. So here's the idea. If you enjoy oatmeal, which I do, being able to make oatmeal takes time. So one of the things when it comes to prepping is how can you conserve time? How can you save time? And overnight soaked oats are a great way of conserving time. So you see here I have my bowl, and what I'm going to also bring over is my shaker. I'm going to use a protein powder that's going to fortify my almond milk. And then I'm going to bring over my oats, a little bit of shredded coconut, and my walnuts. You could use other nuts if you want. And then I'm going to grab, I'll be right back, I'm going to grab some fruit. And with the fruit, what you'll see again, the idea of colors, I have blueberries, I have raspberries, and I have blackberries. I'm a huge fan of getting all the colors of the rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, every single day. I make it a point to get that every single day. It really is fantastic for optimizing your health and overall nutrition. You will stave off illness, promise you. So with that being said, let's see how this comes together. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use a scoop of protein powder. Now, we haven't gotten to it yet, we will. We could actually tie into it a little bit now, is that fourth P of portions. And that's really important because the difference between you and me is going to be our fitness level, our gender, our body size. All of those things are going to play into how much am I going to eat versus how much are you going to eat. So I'm going to set it up as if I'm eating, and then what I would say to you is as you're experimenting for yourself, you can determine what level of, what your portions may look like as you're putting it together on your end. So I'm going to use a scoop of protein powder, and that is approximately 20 grams of protein for those of you who are asking that question. And then I'm going to use about 12-ish ounces. You'll notice that I don't do a whole lot of specific measuring on everything. Some things I do, like the oatmeal and so on, but I've gotten more, down the line I've gotten more into like pinch of this, grab of that, and so forth. That being said, when it comes to prepping, tying back to that, if the idea of eating more healthfully is something less familiar to you, especially when it comes to like prepping ahead of time, I would encourage you to use your measuring devices, cups, spoons, you know, whether you're tablespoon, teaspoons, those types of things. You're measuring cups. This actually is for measuring fluid ounces. Even a scale at times, just so that you're getting used to what do portions actually look like. That'll help you when it comes to your prepping. So back to here, so I'm gonna take this. I have this fancy component that goes in there that strains everything in there, the whey protein in this case. I'm gonna shake that up and get that nice and liquidy. I'm adding the protein powder to the almond milk because almond milk by itself doesn't have a whole lot of protein. And protein is important for building our bones, our muscles, giving us the raw materials to hold on to muscle in particular. So the protein powder I have, it's a whey-based protein powder. There's all sorts of different types of protein powder. I'm using this whey. And what that does is that fortifies the amount of protein in my almond milk. Since I'm not really getting this so much for the protein, I'm getting it more because I enjoy almond milk. So now I have 20-ish grams of protein there and plenty of liquid for my overnight soaked oats that we're gonna put in together now. So the first thing here, I forgot one other piece. I love cinnamon. So I'm gonna grab some cinnamon here. So I just like to put a little bit of cinnamon on the bottom. You can decide how much you want. And then, gonna get approximately an ounce of walnuts. Maybe a little more there, good. And then I like to put my fruit, like all my dry ingredients minus the oatmeal, I like to put it on the bottom. The oatmeal comes last. The reason for that is as I wake up in the morning to actually enjoy this, I will stir it to the top. So then everything mixes up really nice. So now I'm gonna get my blackberries, just a little bit of blackberries. And then I'll get some raspberries, similar amount. As far as amounts, I'm probably doing a little less than a quarter cup for each of these. Like I said, I'm more to eyeballing at this point. I'm not looking for specific measurements. Same for the blueberries. You have one that's trying to escape there. So all told, it ends up being about a cup of my berries. And I go with berries. You could do banana, you could do other fruits. I go with berries because I love that kick in the morning of antioxidants. Antioxidants are those elements that help us to boost our immune function. So when we're eating berries, we're actually improving our body's ability to fight off whatever is trying to invade us. So that's why I go with berries. Next, I'm gonna go with a little bit, gotta make sure I didn't do this already. Kind of lost where I was. There we go, we're gonna go with our shredded coconut. So just a little pinch there. I don't do too much of that. Coconut is a great source of fat. It doesn't have particularly that much flavor, especially the shredded coconut I have here. But it's a great source of fat. And I don't put too much in. I found that if I put too much in, it will kind of upset my stomach. Probably because it's a little more on the insoluble side of things, meaning that when your body's trying to digest it, it's harder for your body to do so. So I go with just a little bit of shredded coconut there. And then finally, the oats. Now, this is a half cup. I personally do a full cup of dried oats. Now, some of you are going, oh my gosh, that's a lot of food. Remember, I might be younger than you, I'm a guy, and I exercise a lot. Okay, and I'm not saying all those things to rationalize, I'm just sharing with you that I'm different than you. So that's what I'm saying. You may go half of everything that I just did there and start with that and see how that works for you. Okay, so once I have that, then I go back to my liquid here, shake it up one more time, and then I just simply pour that slowly over the top. And as I'm doing that, you can see how everything is getting covered with the liquid. And then the best part, let me get my spoon here. So I'm gonna do just a slight mix, not too heavy, just enough to allow the liquid to permeate everything. I want it all the way to the bottom. So just like that. I'm not really mixing my fruit or anything yet. And then the final piece, you put your lid on it. And the reason why it's called overnight soaked oats is simply that. I'm pre-making this. I'll put it in the refrigerator now. It'll stay overnight. And in the morning, it is wonderful. Like the oats have soaked up the moisture. And so you still have that liquid in there, but it's almost, not almost, it actually has started more of a digestive process. So the fibers in the oatmeal are much easier to digest. They don't cause as much difficulty in that process. And then you can choose to heat it up a bit. I might use the microwave. I usually do like 2 minutes and 45 seconds up to 3 minutes. The reason for that time is if you go too long, it'll start to boil and then you'll have a mess in your microwave. So unless you want to clean, I would just go with the like 2:30, 2:45 time range. That's what I found to be most effective. And then of course it's going to be based on how much volume you actually have versus how much I have. So there's your overnight soaked oats, and I'm going to put them in the fridge, and then we'll get on back here. So I'm sorry you're not able to enjoy those tomorrow with me when I am, but I can assure you that if you give them a try, you'll enjoy them. The last P that I wanted to talk about today is going back to what I shared just a bit ago in terms of portion. So portions, we all recognize portions. We know when we see something that's a large portion versus a smaller portion. That's not really what I want to get into, okay? I appreciate that you know portions. What I want to focus on is more of the behaviors associated with portions. And again, like I said, we're talking about 4 behaviors to optimize your nutrition. So what I'm considering is something foundational like this: hunger versus fullness. Think about that. Consider how many times you've gone without eating for long enough that you have become so hungry that you don't care what you're going to eat. You just want something fast and quick. Well, guess what? Fast and quick, those are both paces, and both of those paces are not in support of optimizing your health and nutrition, because both of those paces usually cause us to eat way more than we actually need. So when it comes to portions at a foundational level, that first thing is to consider hunger versus fullness. Take time during the day to consider, when you're making a decision towards food, am I really hungry? That's the first thing I want you to think about. Am I really hungry? And you'll realize that a lot of times during the day, we make decisions based on environment, cues from our environment. We make decisions based on social norms. For example, it's lunchtime. What does that actually mean? Lunchtime for one may be breakfast for another, time-wise. I mean, if we just think about that. So instead of considering that I need to eat on a particular timeline, for example, I have to have breakfast, I have to have lunch, I have to have dinner, I have to have snacks in between. I've heard that. That may not be true for you. Maybe your activity level is lower at the present moment. Maybe you have some challenges joint-wise that affect you in being able to move as much as you want to. So you don't need as much energy. So for you, hunger and fullness is going to be much less than somebody else who's moving a lot all the time. So if we just consider at a basic level, hunger versus fullness, that already starts to align our decisions about portions in a manner that is supportive and will help us optimize our nutrition. So that's the first thing I want you to consider. And then the other thing, we talked about pace already, fast, quick, those are paces. So it's the idea of, how about let's slow down? So the idea of eating slowly. So even if you're super hungry, here's a challenge. If you're super hungry, all right, you recognize maybe you should have made a decision earlier, but here you are now, right? And you're super hungry. Can you intentionally slow down? Take the time. Feel and enjoy every bite. If you can do that, what you'll start to connect with are two proteins, two called leptin, think of lethargy, and ghrelin, think grumbly tummy. So leptin is a protein that is expressed when we are full. And it's just communication between our gut and our brain to let us know when we've had enough. And ghrelin is the opposite. Ghrelin, grumbly tummy, that's communication saying, hey, we need sustenance. Help us out here. So if we tie hunger versus fullness to eating slowly, we start to become more in touch with our body's natural communication via the expression of leptin or ghrelin. We don't have to consider, I ate too much, ate too little, and so on. We just need to tune in and listen to the body.